and welcome to another exciting show. And this week we've got John Hamer and a mystery guest coming up soon. Now, first of all, a few call outs. Number one is there's some few questions to ask. Now, should Tony Blair give up promoting global genocide for Lent? That's the first question. And I've actually got a cracker of an idea. Why can't they, instead of having these units where people are getting the old in the arm, why can't they open them up in undertakers? Because let's face it, save the carbon footprint, as they call it, which I don't believe in. But, you know, the geriatrics can go along there, choose which coffin they want. You have the old... And, it cuts out the middleman. Saves a lot of money. Now, yesterday at Stand in the Park, thank you very much for everybody for, giving a lot of input into some things I was designing. And also I met a very brave man who stands outside doctor's surgeries and has questionnaires. And obviously I can't mention too much, but it was an honour to meet you, sir. And lots of other brave people as well who can do what I can't do. I haven't got the nerve to do. So I admire bravery. So without further ado, it's over to you, John and Dave. Now, Dave, do you want to introduce Dave? I think that'd be the best.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be one of the ones where I take almost a total backseat. I'll no doubt chip in with bits and pieces, but I'm no expert in this matter, unlike my friend Dave, who is here. Now, Dave is actually sat next to me, so it's going to be a bit of a kind of a manual operation moving the laptop camera around. But he'll be on it most of the time, and I'll just be in the background. But Dave is appearing in disguise, and he'll explain to you why that is. It's over to you, my friend.
Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Chris, and it's a privilege to be here with you and the great John Hamer. And
very kind. It's a great privilege for you to be on the show.
Firstly, I'd like to apologise to the viewers for the ridiculous disguise, but no images or footage of me have ever appeared on the internet, and I need to make sure it stays that way due to a previous career. I hope everybody understands. And again, I apologise for the disguise, but there's no other option. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.
Now, I believe you are trained in...
Yeah, I am a trained hypnotherapist, which was part of a previous career, and I've been a prepper and survivalist for 15 years, and I think it's very important that everyone is prepared for what is actually a current disaster playing out slowly, and it's very important for everyone to be prepared to survive what's coming up, which will be deeply unpleasant. There's a massive global genocide currently occurring, and there's engineered food shortages coming down the pipe, which are purposefully engineered by the same people who are perpetrating the current debacle, which we're all aware of. And I don't want to name it because
Thanks.
I don't want the video to get flagged by YouTube and their vile minions. And go ahead with any questions anybody's got.
Well, first of all, do you think you could explain with hypnotherapy, because this is quite amazing. Before the show came on, I've been watching a chappie in Norway. He's a trained hypnotherapist, and he said that governments are using the techniques. And I was thinking, I didn't know you were trained in this area, and I was thinking, can we get someone on that knows about this? And you do. Would it be possible for you to explain what you explained to me before we came on air? Without I was actually gobsmacked by what you told me about those podiums that the bozos from the government stood on, and all this constant fear porn and things like that. Would it be possible?
Yes, well, earlier on in the pandemic, firstly, I'd just like to apologise to Angela. I'm sorry if I sound muffled. I'm trying to speak a bit louder because a viewer's just asked me to speak a bit clearer, which I am trying to do now. I hope you can hear me clearly. Yes, I was originally woken up to the current scam when I recognised from my training as an hypnotherapist the trance induction techniques which were being blatantly employed by the three stooges in the government, being various people, including Chris Whitty and Boris Johnson. They had 3 podiums, and on the daily COVID updates, they had the slogans, you know, protect the NHS, stay at home, and save lives in various orders. And the podium backgrounds where these words were displayed were purposefully being changed at specific intervals. And the trance induction, which obviously many viewers will have seen Mr. Chris Whitty coming on in several adverts, monotonously repeating, stay at home, protect the NHS, and save lives. And it was unblinking and staring into the camera in a close-up. And this is a trance embedding technique, and it combines with the phrases that were on these podiums. And the reason why they were changing the background colours on each of these phrases at regular intervals was part of the trance induction procedure, which causes the recipient of this information to obey these embedded instructions in any setting. This is why they put the physical words in a blue background, a red background, a yellow background with black and yellow stripes around it. And it was obey this no matter what setting you are in. So it was a very serious and sinister piece of blatant trance induction. And I have friends in the hypnotherapy field who fully agree with me, and I'm happy for any questions regarding this and how this technique has been employed to cause the viewers to obey. And I found it very sinister, and this is when I started looking into the current situation. I've been invited on here very kindly by John and Chris to speak about survival techniques, which is my main area of expertise. But I'm also a trained hypnotherapist, as Chris has correctly pointed out at the beginning, and he didn't realise that I was also a hypnotherapist. So this has been dropped on us unexpectedly.
Well, actually, thanks, Dave. Shall we go into chat and then we sort of have a word about survival? Would that be okay, Dave?
Definitely.
Okie dokie. Right, let's have a quick look who we've got to that. Well, it's Edge Track Husher, and he came on before the program. We'll try and make this if I can. I'll tell you something very odd that's happened. People made comments before the program started, and somehow YouTube has taken several of those comments out, and they were quite nice comments, very nice comments. So wasn't my doing it. I'm terribly sorry. I actually answered them. They've taken my answer out as well. Now we've got here Sean Hamer. No relationship to John Hamer. Good evening. Hello, Sean. We've got
Sean.
Good evening, Sean. Chris and John, and also Dave as well. So here we go. And then we've got Kevin Keener. Hi, guys. We've got Aunt Sally. Oh, hello, Aunt Sally. There is something going strange with YouTube. She said, even though I'm subscribed, I wasn't notified, and this show did not appear on my list of subscriptions as being live. Good job. I knew you were on. Thanks, Aunt Sally. I will try and look into that. I'm limited what I can do, but I'm getting fed up with you know who, ScrewTube, but the trouble is, and I've got to use it to get the audience figures up. But I'm ever so sorry that's happened, because you're all guests are welcome, and thank you very much for telling me. I'm not on my own. There's 2 other people here, not here, but actually in Barbados. So here we go. There's Louise Wilcox. Oh, hello, Louise. Hello, everyone. And we've got the lady with the bicycle, Suzanne Adkins. Hello, Suzanne. Are you getting over the envy of my excellent bicycle, the Tour de Fockham winner? Went round Fockham Hall, the country garden. I mean, it's a good one. Do you want to swap?
Did you win the Tour de Fockham, Chris?
Yes, I was the only entrant.
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Slightly biased there.
And your penny farthing.
Almost like it. It's a cyclist equivalent of a steam engine, I think. Andrew Davis. Hi, Chris, John, and Dave. And then we got, yes, we've already done that. He's not muffled anymore. Here we go. And then we've got, thanks, Dave, Edge Crusher. Evening, Eric. Oh, hello, Edge Crusher. Well, that's the very brave man I was speaking about at the beginning. So good on you, mate. It's good to meet you. And we got Hatchy. Hi, all. Then we've got Haley B. I've never seen Witty blink. That's hypnotizing enough. That's interesting, Dave, isn't it?
That's been purposefully.
Really?
Yeah, the trance induction physical embedding techniques where he's on there unblinking and staring into the camera. It speaks to the subconscious mind as it is inducted with the previous techniques. So he's bypassing the conscious mind by not blinking and staring straight at the viewer and repeating the phrases which were on the podiums. So remember, stay at home, check the NHS, and save lives. And it'll be all monotonous and equidistantly spaced. This is an important aspect of trance induction.
Well, I'll tell you something. You've really opened my mind tonight. You've explained it a lot better than a lot of other people have explained it. Thanks. And soul bollocks. Hello all. Then we've got Ralph Winter. I know what Dave is talking about. That's why I didn't watch it. That's interesting from Ralph.
Very good move, Ralph. Extremely good move.
And it's got here, evening, Dave. Oh, as another person that hasn't got, Paul Green did not get notification either. Now, I actually put the advert for this programming on Saturday. So there's something going on. I really
As always.
Sorry?
As always.
As always. Now, Dave, do you want to speak about, hang on, we've got another one here. Louise, remember, be free, make your own choice, listen to nothing and research everything. Very true. Now, Dave, do you want to go into what we sort of asked you on the program? I mean, I actually can see another program about what you was talking about earlier with this hypnotherapy coming up. But people are, I've advertised it as survival. So do you want to, you're geared up for that. Now, I took you off course a little bit, so I'm terribly sorry about that. So, hang on a minute, before we go any further, we've got Town Crier. Evening, mate. Thank you very much. It's good to see you yesterday. And I've got some better ideas about what we're talking about. Anyway, so Dave, do you want to speak about how the average person ever going to survive this psychopath's playground?
Yes, thank you for that excellent introduction. And
thank you.
I'd like to start by saying I'm glad you said ordinary people, because there seems to be a myth in the survival instructor community where they're seen as some kind of magician and massively skilled expert in various things. Obviously, the skill to create fire by a number of methods is important, and obviously skill to purify water in any environment is also important, and as well as thermal regulation, massively important items. But I'd like to bust the myth that everybody thinks you have to be some kind of massively skilled expert to be a prepper and a survivalist, particularly with the advent of very advanced equipment, which is available now to the general public. Anybody can do it, and it's important to be prepared for what's coming up, because it's upon us. This is not what might happen. I mean, in the past, I've prepared for various things: asteroids hitting the Earth, nuclear war, I'm all geared up for everything imaginable. Got a 25-man self-inflating raft from an oil rig, and this was in case there was a global tsunami and other well, quite frankly, crazy, unlikely ideas. But that's part of why we're all called mad, or we were all called mad until the current scenario began unfolding, and now people are listening more. And it's important to be able to have enough food and water or means to filter water in your home, because bugging out into the woods, although is possible, is fraught with difficulty, and efforts even from reasonably skilled people can be scuppered by simple things like bad weather. And it's important that people realise you need to be prepared to stay at home or bug in, so to speak, as opposed to bugging out into the woods like some kind of Tarzan character. And people can do this by storing long-term tinned food with long shelf lives, and they'll be able to ride out the coming apocalypse, which is going to be here very shortly due to engineered food shortages. And we're seeing it now disguised as wagon driver shortages. You'll have seen it on the news. It's not. The food supply has been destroyed at source, at the production end, with obviously people like Bill Gates buying all the farms in America and scuppering beef production and corn production, wheat production, and things like this going downhill. Now, if you look at it like one of these giant domino displays that you see in stadiums, Bill Gates has just knocked the first domino over. We're not feeling it yet.
Shall we say William instead? I think that might be a bit better. Yeah.
He's knocked the first domino over, and the knock-on effect of that won't be seen for a long time, because this is a big, long game they're playing. And it's important as a survivalist. I believe I've never done this before. I've never been on any kind of podcast. But I feel it's important that people realise now is the time to store food, store water, and have alternative means of generating electricity, so that you can provide food, water, shelter, heat, and light in no particular order for yourselves and those you care about. I've spent a very large number of years as a survivalist and prepper, and if anybody has got any questions, I'm very happy to answer them. And I'm not really sure what else to say.
Well, actually, I've got a question here, Dave, and that is, I've always been a prepper, believe it or not, for years. My parents were as well, believe it or not, long before it was ever thought of. And I don't store things like tinned tomatoes because the acid of the tomato is supposed to react with the inside of the tin. And also, I love pineapples. I've tinned pineapples. But the thing I'm going to say is that with water now, I don't store water. And the reason why I'm not too happy about the plastic reacting with the water, and it'd run out very, very quickly. You need loads of space because you go through loads of water. So my view was to use rainwater. I've invested a lot in rainwater tubs in my garden, and filter that through charcoal, sand, and grit, sort of grit, sand, and charcoal filter. But I realised I tried it using a guttering downpipe, like they do in Australia. You pour the foul water in the top, and it comes out clean at the bottom. But I used the wrong charcoal, and it should have been their charcoal that you use in aquariums. Have you any sort of comments on water? Because I think that is the most important.
Yes, I mean, what you've described, quite eloquently described, to be fair, is a primitive water filter, which would be a DIY item if you was in an emergency and you had nothing. But now these activated charcoal filters available. They've been available for a lot of years, but they've recently got more publicity. And I have a Berkey light filter, which you can pour river water in, lake and pond water in, rainwater in, anything apart from seawater, and it'll filter 12 litres an hour just by gravity alone. You fill the top bucket, and it runs through the filter modules and comes out the cleanest water you can possibly imagine from any source. And not only that, because of the nature of coconut husk activated charcoal, it will remove trace elements of contraceptive drugs, which are causing a lot of societal problems because water companies refuse to test for these drug residues from birth control pills and other things that people are taking, antidepressants. There's traces of all sorts of tranquilizers, birth control, hormones, and everything in your tap water, and they think that it's all good if they just add chloramine to it, which is a bound element. There used to be chlorine, which was easy to remove by pouring water from a height from one container to another, but this chloramine is stuck in there, and the Berkey filters, the black Berkey filters, actually filter chloramine out. Prior to getting this black Berkey filter, I was binding the chloramine at a molecular level by adding ascorbic acid at 0.5 grams per litre, and that was binding it and rendering the chloramine harmless because it's a bad free radical in the body and can destroy organs and things. I'm sure you're aware of that as a long-term prepper. But I like your idea that you've got various filter media in order in your makeshift filter, but the technology is here and it's available to be able to do this effortlessly. And just two sets of filters, two sets of black filters in a Berkey light filter would provide the best drinking water imaginable for two people for upwards of 24 years with just two sets of filters. And if you get three sets of filters, if you was young, you get three sets of filters, it'll last 45 years. So the technology is here, and it's the main message that I'm trying to get across. You don't have to be any kind of expert prepper or able to build your own filter and things. I can obviously do them kind of things if it comes to it. If we're not in an urban environment, yes, we can use various applications to create drinkable water. It's complex, labor intensive, and time consuming, and it's not like people think. It's not as easy as a lot of these survival experts on YouTube say it is. And I believe it's important to take full advantage of the technology that's here whilst we're able to buy it, because I don't think it's going to be too long before hyperinflation happens here, and you're not going to be able to get anything. Your money will be more useful as fuel. It'll be worth that little. This has already happened in places like Zimbabwe, Germany, Argentina, and we've
happened in Germany in the 30s, isn't it?
Yes.
Weimar Republic, yeah.
Yeah, we're not immune from that.
Well, you're right there. And now this, I'd like to so our viewers, it's a Berkey filter, and the type you say
Berkey Light, Berkey, very well known. They've been making them for a very long time.
American, aren't they?
They are American, and there's various disinformation campaigns about them from states like California, saying, "Oh, they don't pass our stringent requirements." Well, it's not that at all. I've spoken to the Berkey representatives, and they're being taxed out of the game in places like California. They say,
well, California's banned plastic pipes, haven't they? Plastic water pipes.
Well, I mean, the Berkey Light filter is actually made of plastic, but it's certified BPA free and non-leaching, and it doesn't matter how long your water stays in it, it will not leach any chemicals into your water. It's guaranteed not to. I've had this independently tested.
What about at a push, a flower pot? Because it takes a long time, but if you clog the bottom of the flower pot, and if you haven't got a Berkey filter, there's hyperinflation, and you're desperate for water, would a flower pot work, or two flower pots?
If you're desperate, you can create a makeshift filter in the manner that you described earlier. It's never going to perform to the same level as what's currently available if you want to invest in it, but it will work. Now, crucially, the first layer, as you correctly pointed out, is gravel. The the thing is, you want a particulate filter on top of the gravel, which might be a piece of cotton. So it takes the suspended turbidity out of the water, and you're cleaning it rather than purifying it. But when it gets through the activated charcoal, if you can create activated charcoal, because it's quite a hard process to do, it will come out chemical free, as you've correctly pointed out. But I do think that there's a lot of, I mean, you've already alluded to the fact that you've been a prepper for a number of years.
Yes.
So you'll be more skilled than a lot of maybe some of the viewers which are just getting into this. And to be fair, I'd advise them to buy. I'm not affiliated with any manufacturers or anything like that. I just know what's best and I use what's best. So get it while it's here is my advice. Because learning to do it, it's doable, but to be fair, you might not have that much time now.
I understand. And this bucket, I was quite surprised that you said it lasts, what, 20 to 30 years? That is quite.
Yeah, what it is the black filter cylinders screw into the top module, and you fill the water up so that it goes above the filter modules, and it runs through them. And they're made out of activated charcoal with various other proprietary ingredients in there, which they are patented and therefore won't disclose what they are. But I know the guy who runs Drink Safe Systems UK, which is a rival for Berkey. I know him personally, and it's either bone charcoal or coconut husk charcoal that they're using.
I see.
Both of which are massively efficient chemical removal systems.
Well, should we go into chat? And I don't know if you have any more to say about water filters, because I was going to,
Water filtration is a vast subject on its own from a primitive survival point of view. Yeah. I don't know if the audience wishes me to go into great detail about how to do this in the wild and create your own activated charcoal and things like this. But it is quite a convoluted and long, drawn-out subject, which a lot of people find boring.
There are one or two questions in chat anyway, so maybe go into chat.
So shall we go into chat? And now where are we? That's
an interesting one.
Right. And we've got answer. I saw the notification on Telegram. Yes, I'm on Telegram. I'll have to put that down so people can find a link. Fockham Hall, I'm on Telegram. That's how I knew you were on. Thanks, Aunt Sally. And it says, Kevin Keener, they are trying to take our eyes off of what is really going on. They are full of lunacy, and it's getting worse. We need, and I won't say the word, but the audience can read that word for obvious reasons. Yes. What he meant is, yes. Yes, I think there is a, I think they're deliberately stirred up as well. I won't say it out loud for obvious reasons. Good one, Sean. Again, I won't read it out for obvious reasons. Now, we've got some good ones here. Here we go. They're all down there, bunkers and the cities they have built for themselves. Yeah, yes, that's right. Now we've got Sean Hamer. We don't need anywhere near as much food as people are used to. Our eats.
Cat eats. We've got the two words.
More than that. Oh, sorry. Our cat eats more than me on some days, and I am generally fit and well. He can make a small amount last a long time. Yes, that's true. That's very, very true. I'm also, I've got a good stockpile of vitamins as well, vitamin tablets. Yeah, I have a question. Where do you live? Well, I don't think you really want to give that away, do you?
The UK. I live in the UK.
Yes. But it says here, Gillison, can you expand on storing? What's best to store? How to get heating, etc.? Yes, we're going to go over to that, I believe. It says here, Sean Hamer says, the state will have food seizure orders for hoarders if things get as bad as predicted. Yes, I believe that Stalin had that, didn't he? and so did Mao Zedong. Sol Bullocks, 3 minutes, no air, 3 days, no water, 3 weeks, no food, equal. That's it. Goodbye.
That's
Sol
correct.
Bullocks, Berkey filters good. Yes, here we go. Because remember, we've got quite a few viewers from America and Canada as well. Justin Weathers, MMS chlorine dioxide is good to have close to for water purifier. Chlorine dioxide. That's interesting. The masks are having a good go at the first Sol. Are they? So works. Here we are. Now we got here. Aunt Sally, I have a Wrecking countertop stainless steel water filter. It's exactly the same as a Berkey. It costs considerably less, £156, including filter, which lasts a year. Have you any comments on that, Dave?
Yes, I'm fully aware that there are other filters which are kind of the same gravity bead configuration as the Berkey filter, but in my opinion, although I'm not trying to disparage the reputation of the model of filter that the viewer has got, I believe that if you can afford the best, buy the best, because it's the most vital resource there is.
Yeah.
And it's been tried and tested for over 30 years. And I'm just not sure what else to say on that. You're welcome to get any brand you want. I don't care which brand of filter you buy. It's the concept that I'm pushing. I think everybody should have an efficient, economical, non-electricity based water filter system in their home, regardless of what the make and model is.
Non-electricity based is a very good point, because you can survive without food, but you can't survive without water. That's the thing. Nice one, Aunt Sally. Charcoal, yes. Soulbox sand, yes. Now we've got Haley B. What type of food should be stored and how much? I think we can be going on to that, Dave, can't we? And there are videos, this is Kevin Kinner, out there that show you how to make them for a lot less than what you pay for ones you buy online, and are just as good. Well, yes and no, because as Dave said, the Berkey has bit things in it which DIY ones haven't got. So
is it all right to interrupt? Is that okay?
Oh no. Well, I was very rude. I was quoting what you said. It could be wrong. So
no. What it is quite right. People are using 2 cheap buckets stacked on top of each other, stackable plastic buckets, and they're drilling their own DIY holes, which are the right size for the Berkey filters. Now, you're saving a lot by not buying the Berkey buckets, and the viewer's quite right to point out that they work just as good, because you actually have the Berkey black filters in there, and you're just saving money on the buckets. Now, my only issue with this is what is in the buckets, as in what is the plastic consisting of. It may well be certified BPA free and non-leaching, but the whole reputation of some of the best filter making companies is on the line when they say this. And I've had the water out of my Berkey filter independently tested, and it's got nothing apart from water and minerals which are left in. Excuse me. Before I had the Berkey filter, I used to electrically distill with an electric distiller. I used to distill the tap water and then remineralize it with Himalayan pink salt in order to replace the minerals that distillation removes from the water, because it's not a good idea to drink distilled water over the long term, because distilled water is such an aggressive solvent. It even acidifies itself when exposed to the air, because it soaks the carbon dioxide out of the air and turns itself into carbonic acid slowly. So if you're using the distiller in an emergency, you need to make sure that it's a temporary measure, in my opinion. And a filter is far better because it leaves the minerals in. Plus, the distiller costs 75p a litre to distill water, which is too much.
Yes, that's quite you've got a very good point there, because I'll say we are water. 80% of us is water, and that's the most important thing. And I agree with you there, Dave. Yeah, you're spot on. Sell bollocks, thins, pasta, rice, oxo cubes, dried fruit. Yes, I've got all that. And as an intro, I promise I don't eat cats. Oh, I do. No, I don't. No, I don't. Right.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. A bit of roadkill, you know. The old moggy sliced off, scraped off the road. Can you filter river water easily enough? Over to you, Dave.
Definitely, the Berkey filter and a number of other filters from Drink Safe Systems UK are perfect for filtering river water because they remove everything. They remove pesticides, chemicals, as well as your bacteria, pathogens, parasites, and the alleged viruses, obviously. It removes everything that you don't need and keeps everything that you do need, and it really is phenomenal. I've also got, I alluded to using a distiller earlier on. Now, you can actually drink the sea if you distill it, and the salt remains in the bottom of the distiller as a vital mineral. You can put it on your food, or you can use it to replenish electrolytes. But I also have a reverse osmosis filter. It's a military issue Royal Navy life raft filter, which enables you to drink the sea if you're adrift. I don't know. I mean, that's probably a bit out there for your average prepper and things, but I've got one and I can swear by them. They're phenomenal if you want to drink the sea.
That's interesting because you can actually use a plastic bag over soil and distill it that way, but you don't get much water.
It's droplets. I see a lot of the survival experts doing this plastic bag over leaves and condensing water from plants, and obviously they do the pebble in the middle of a plastic sheet and dig a hole and fill it with vegetation and put some kind of muddy water in it, and then you drink it afterwards. But you'll need probably 30 working solar stills to keep a person alive in a moderate climate. If you was in a hot climate, probably 50 of them solar stills to keep one person going.
And that would be just keeping going, yeah. There we've got Edge Crusher. Keep the bar filled up, not after I've used it, mate. Bloody hell.
That's a very interesting comment. Keep the bath filled up. There's
really?
Yeah, Bob tanks are available now. I'm not sure what the BOB stands for. It's an acronym, but it's like a very, very large plastic bag with a tap on, and you fill the plastic bag up, and it's BPA free because obviously your bath plug chain and things is going to pollute your water over the long term. But you can store an entire bath full right up to the brim with this bath liner called a Bob water storage bag, and that's a good thing. If you're happy to drink tap water, then you could fill this bath liner up, and it's all an enclosed bag, hundreds of litres, and it's good for long-term water storage if you're happy to drink the tap water.
That's interesting. Now it says here, answer. Oh, she's flying the flag for Wrecking Hopper. The answer says the Berkey filter actually fit the Wrecking Hopper. So I think we've got two camps here. We've got the Wrecking Hoppers, and then we've got the Berkey filters.
You are. Sally is correct to point out that the Berkey filters will fit other makes of filter, which may be cheaper to get, because it's all dependent upon the hole diameter where the filter modules go in and are screwed into. And as long as they're the right size, you can use any container. But as I've explained earlier on, with it being such a vital long-term resource to have, I'd rather not compromise. So I accept that the Berkey filters are expensive compared to other makes, but I haven't found anything better. So that's my choice. I'll be sticking with them.
Well, actually, Crane, he always recommended Berkey filters as well, and he spent a long time in America. I mean, I've actually, at the moment, I've just got a get all laughed out, a Brita filter. I mean, What do you think of those? I mean,
well, they're an ionic exchange ceramic filter. The Brita filters are a ceramic element which relies on ionic exchange. Now, they only lasts a very short time, and it won't remove any drug residue, chemical runoff from fertilizer. It's not going to take chemicals out. It'll take some things out, but I think the list is not long enough, to be fair.
I find them okay, but just okay. Louise Wilcox, Berkey are very, yeah, we know that. Expensive though. Some of us can only hope we can survive. There are tablets, I think you're probably talking about Camden tablets, you can get to purify water, but are they useful? I think the army used those during the Second World War, and I think they're called Camden tablets, aren't they, Dave? I don't know.
I actually carry water purification tablets in my wallet at all times because I'm also an everyday carry fanatic. I'll carry on my person what I need in case everything goes very, very wrong quickly. So it's just a hang up of mine as a prepper. I will do everyday carry. EDC is the acronym for it. You'll see a lot of videos about it on YouTube. And I actually carry Aquamira water purification tablets that do 1 tablet per litre. Now, again, I wouldn't want to drink this water long term because you're adding to it bleach, really. It's chlorine. So chlorine dioxide that a viewer was alluding to earlier on, household bleach. If it's household bleach, you'll use 14 drops per gallon to purify river or lake water. But again, this is kind of a bit far down the list.
It's evil stuff, bleach, because it comes.
It will keep you. You will be able to drink water and save you from dying from dehydration, but it really should be seen as a last-ditch option, in my opinion. I mean, we've got a lot of infrastructure in the urban, semi-urban environment here, which makes survival very easy, to the point where a lot of survivalists, including me, are really using their knowledge, equipment, and skills to create more comfort and luxury as opposed to hardcore wilderness survival, which it is possible to do, but I really wouldn't recommend it because it's extremely difficult. It's not like you see on Naked and Afraid and other Discovery Channel programs.
Especially in Great Britain, because quite honestly, we don't have that much. It might be in the wilds of Scotland and some parts of Wales. But I mean, I'm not that far from Epping Forest, but I don't think I could survive very long in the Epping Forest, really. Now we got here, Sean Hamer, I trust the body more than any external product or plan. That's interesting. And then we got Edge Crusher here. I'm off down the Lee then. Well, I'll tell you something, I wouldn't eat rice because you think they're in those paddy fields. Are they going to go out to do a wee? No. So any joke in there, right? Now we've got who is shady character you have on? Well, it's Dave, and we mentioned at the beginning. I think you've come in halfway through that Dave doesn't wish to be identified because there are honest reasons and that. So at the end of the program, go back to the beginning, and I don't think you don't want to explain it. Don't want to explain it again, Dave.
I'm very happy to explain to new viewers and make sure that they get their questions answered. I've got the ridiculous disguise on here because no images or footage of me appears anywhere on the internet, not even accidental party shots or anything. It's important because of my previous career that I don't have any images of me on the internet for people to get access to, and I can't really go into it any further than that. I apologise for the ridiculous disguise, but it's a necessity. I've never done a podcast before, and I'm trying to help people. So,
well, he's a great bloke, Dave, and you know I'm very honoured that you come on. Thank you. I'm on the show. Thank you very much. And we've got here Kevin Keener. I would get the stainless steel one, like the big water tubs you get on site, big cooking pots. Okay, really. There it says here, plenty of pigeon burgers then. You wouldn't want to eat the pigeons around my way. Not old Eric. There's Eric the Pigeon. Eric von Essex, Eric the Pigeon. Right, we got here. Some spread lies, other knows the truth. Who is who? Would just drink me piss. Survival is survival.
Is it okay to speak to that?
You have to ask us.
As far as drinking your urine goes, it's very important that people don't take any notice of Bear Grylls and his ilk, because you will succumb to kidney failure in a very, very short space of time if you drink undiluted urine more than once or twice. You're okay in a last-ditch attempt to do it, but the Berkey filters and various other filters, Drink Safe Systems UK is another one. You can happily drink your own urine if you just do it in the top half of the Berkey filter. Perfect drinking water, perfectly purified water will come out of the bottom. So you can recycle your body fluids in that way if you feel like that's something you want to do. But I believe that it's better to have a load of supplies of real water rather than, as you put it, drinking one's own piss, because I don't think it's a good idea as a survival strategy. Piss is useful if you're in a hot climate, because you can piss on a scarf and then wrap it around your body or your head, and is a very effective coolant in the sun. But I wouldn't consume it extensively.
It's also a very good fertilizer if you mix it
Correct.
20 times with water. But I wouldn't advise it near your home because it attracts flies. I found the hard way. Swarms of flies. But if you've got a long garden like I've got, I'll use it at the top of the garden in the summer, but not at the bottom of the garden. Now it says here, I've had to miss a few out because we've got so many questions on here. I'm trying to find the sort of relevant ones. Now we got, oh dear, we got another one. Aunt Sally certainly likes her wrecking filter. I'm in an anti-fluoride group on Facebook. It was a person in that group that recommended the wrecking. I've only had mine a month or so, and it's great. Well, I think it's like everything else. Do what you feel is good for yourself. That's what I say to everybody.
Yes, the fluoride, the anti-fluoride,
or whatever other people don't. Right.
The anti-fluoride group that the viewer was mentioning. Berkey filters, the black Berkey filters, don't remove fluoride, but they do some white filters, because there's 4 holes in the top module, and only 2 of them are used with the black filters. If you uncork the remaining 2 holes, they do white filters, which are specifically there to remove fluoride if it's in your water. So they do remove fluoride if you buy the extra module. Now, I have got the anti-fluoride filters, but because the water in my area is not fluoridated, I'm saving them for in case they do fluoridate it.
The same here. That's not fluoride. Well, so they say. But we got here Kevin Keener. This is an interesting one. Dave, have you got a channel so that I can get more information?
I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. But I can get Chris to send you some excellent links to very, very good survivalists who are professional instructors. And it's all free, and you can just watch their videos on all the subjects that I've been speaking on. And one in particular is absolutely excellent. And I don't know if Chris has the facility to send viewers links.
Yes, but, yes. I'll actually add it at the bottom after the show. So
yes,
it'll probably be tomorrow or the next day, but I'll pop that down. And I'll try and add it on the website, fockhamhallradio.com. So, we put it on there. So, yeah, that's not a problem, Dave. Now, we've got here Rebed Systems. Yes, that's right. They do purify water to a point, don't they? This is an interesting one, Dave. Who makes the water purification tablets? What's in them? This is Sean Hamer. Where do you get them from? That's the thing. What's the best ones to get?
Well, any are okay. Aquamira are a good mate, but they're all they are is bleach tablets. They're just just chlorine dioxide tablets that dissolve in the water and kill various bacteria, alleged viruses, and other pathogens like Giardia parasites and things. It takes a certain amount of time to kill these, so you have to wait half an hour or whatever. You get a litre, you put a tablet in, leave it to dissolve for an hour, and then you drink it, and it will be drinkable, and it will be potable water, but I'd rather go with purification and filtration, unless it's an emergency.
I could see your point, because anything to do with bleach is not good, because I think it was. I think it was Camden tablets that the army used to use. I know in the Second World War they had tablets to purify the water. As far back as then, I don't know about the First World War, but I know the Second World War they did. My dad had them, I think. Now it says it's not hard to make a distillery for water, pressure cooker and such like. YouTube.
Yes, I fully agree with that. A stovetop distiller is an excellent idea if you have a wood-burning stove or a multi-fuel burning stove in your house, because you're basically heating your house and providing the heat energy to run your stovetop distiller, and it's working free because you're already running your stove. You've already got wood or rubbish or coal or anything that you put in your stove, and it's not causing you an extra expense to run a stovetop distiller, and they are excellent. But again, you want to remineralize that distilled water before consuming it, and I don't want anybody to get confused about distilled water versus deionized water. It's basically the same, but the deionized water that you buy in Tesco's for car batteries and irons is not produced in sanitary conditions. It's in massive ponds which vermin have access to in the factories, so you do not want to be consuming that.
That's right. And also, as for a stove, I mean, I've made a rocket stove from perlite and cement, and you can make a rocket stove. I've actually got one which I made, and I'll show a picture of it. And it's very, very simple to make, but it does take a long time to cure. You've got to leave it for about a month or two to cure properly, because you don't want it exploding or anything like. Well, it won't explode, but that is a cheap way, because I looked on it. I mean, I had a primer stove, but you can't get paraffin now. In an emergency, you won't be able to get it. And it's all right having these gas stoves, but you won't be able to get the gas cylinders. So my attitude is, I live in a semi-rural area, so there's always wood around which you can burn. And the rocket stove is the most efficient way of burning wood. But the trouble is, I ain't got a chimney in my house. It's a modern house, so I'd have to. Hence the reason I'm going to put a chimney in my shed. So there we go. Right. Now we've got here 2 drops, 1 gallon of water. That's bleach. Yes, I don't like bleach. Now we got here.
It's 14 drops a gallon in tap water for long-term storage, and it might be okay 2 drops per litre, not gallon, because 2 drops isn't enough to purify, especially not wild water like river or lake water or rainwater. Obviously, rainwater is clean on its own, but not in a town. It's run off your roof, it's run through bird droppings, etc., etc. So 2 drops per gallon is more like 2 drops per litre, because if you want to keep water in your house long term in big drums, you'll want it out of the sunlight, and you'll want 14 drops of household bleach per gallon in it to ensure that there's no long term growth of bacteria and things in there. And I'd still want to be pouring it through the Berkey filter if I ever had to start using it. I wouldn't drink it straight out of the storage tubs.
Well, I've got a water tester which I bought off of eBay. You can buy them very cheap, a couple of quid. And I think now, off the top of my head, and I'm near enough on this, I think it's 350 parts per million. I could be wrong on that. Please don't hold me on it. And I tested, 250, something like that. And I tested my tap water, and it's about 125, 175 parts per million. I then stuck it in, I got some water from the water tub outside, which has flowed over bird poo and everything else. And I thought it was going to go go off the scale, 5. Seriously. Now, if you get one of these testers, you can get them off of eBay, and you test your water, your tap water, and ordinary rainwater, you'll be shocked at the result. So it was about 175 parts per million, 5 parts per million with ordinary filthy rainwater. I wouldn't drink rainwater. Now we got here, Sean, do you wear it all the time in the streets? No, streets, because facial recognition is up and running in street furniture. Well, I think Dave's wearing it because on the internet it's a bit of a different situation.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Now it says here, oh, excuse me. Yeah, I think we're going on I don't know about you, Dave, but there's loads and loads of questions about drink your own pee and distill water and water and water and water and water.
It's a vast subject.
It's a vast subject, and I think there's a lot of us like to move on, if that's all right with you. I don't know if you've got anything more on food, because that is the second most important subject. So food storage, the type of food. I think I know what you're going to say about the type of food, but I'll let you say it. So far away, Dave.
For food, I'd go with tinned corned beef and things like that, tinned spam. Corned beef has been opened in tins, 50 years old, and still perfectly fine to eat. It's a good staple, and there's lots of good fats in it and things, and you can supplement it with, as Chris was pointing out earlier on, roadkill or things that have died outside, or items of game that you've tracked or shot. You can supplement everything, and corned beef is a fantastic staple for long-term storage. It's quite cheap at places like Aldi and Lidl, and I must have a thousand.
Can I just add a little proviso on that?
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I'm terribly sorry. It's rude.
Go ahead.
But I've noticed that Aldi and Lidl corned beef has got sugar in it, whereas if you buy Fabentus, which is a little bit more expensive, it hasn't got sugar in it. So I just thought I'd mention that. Okay, sorry, Dave.
It's correct that you've pointed that out, but as another viewer was pointing out earlier on, you need far less calories than we are led to believe. Now, if you eat corned beef that you've had stored and it happens to be a brand that's got sugar in it, that is a good energy source, provided that you're not having a load of sugar in the rest of your diet. It's important to minimize sugar intake, as you've correctly pointed out, but I don't think that sugar content in cheaper brands of corned beef, given the fact that we're talking about eating it in an emergency, you're not going to be overdoing it. You're going to be eking it out. So I think that the extra sugar consumption that you'd be faced with having in your body with some corned beef that's got sugar in the preservatives, I don't think it's a massive deal from a survival or prepping point of view. I hope you agree. If you don't agree, then that's fair enough.
Yeah, I think you've got a good point there. Right, so things like rice and pasta. That's right. You've got it's contagious, this, mate, isn't it? You know, I started coughing. Now you, is it right that rice and pasta can be stored for 30 odd years?
It all depends on the conditions. You want airtight containers, and you want them partially vacuum sealed as well, if you can get the equipment to do that. I have got rice and pasta stored, but I personally don't think that it's going to store as long as things like corned beef in vacuum sealed tins. It is a good carbohydrate, and get it while you can, because it's going to run out quickly. And it's fair enough. Calories are king. If you can get plenty of calories down here, then in an hardcore situation where there's massive food shortages, I really think anything goes up to a point, and rice and pasta's fine. But I don't believe its long-term storage capability is comparable to that of corned beef.
Also, you don't have to cook corned beef. You have to cook pasta and rice. You can't eat that raw.
That's right. You can just eat the corned beef out the tin, which means if you was, say, I don't know, hypothetically, you were trying to avoid a heat signature coming through your house roof, depending on who was operating whatever tyranny you're hiding from, you maybe not want to alert anyone to the fact that you're actually still in the house if there's been any large-scale population removals. So you might, you've got a good point that you don't have to cook corned beef, whereas rice and pasta, you've got to generate some kind of heat to cook it. And that's a good tactical question, which I didn't expect.
What is a big no-no to store? What is the thing not to have? I mean, I mentioned tomatoes. You might disagree with me on that, because I was thinking of the acid in the tomatoes reacting with the inside of the tin. But is there big no-nos? Not ones that you shouldn't really store.
Well, I wouldn't store any kind of dairy foods, because they just perish.
Yeah.
Anything that you can pickle, then you're all right. Fish, meat, eggs. You can pickle things like that. But if you've got a freezer, you can store milk. But again, that's using electricity. If the power grid goes down, you don't really want things that require refrigeration. And that's really my only comment on what not to store.
Also, cabbages, I make sauerkraut.
Yes, excellent.
Good for your gut.
Oh, yeah.
And you can actually make it. You don't have to have cabbage. It's ordinary salt, water, and there's lots of YouTube shows you how to do it. And there's some that is not quite, but I'm talking about real sauerkraut. And people think it's only from Germany, but it's British as well and English.
Well, you just add salt and it makes its own pickling juice.
Very good for your stomach as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Vitamin C, the lot. So that's another good thing to have. But I was going to say, any real no-nos? So you're saying dairy is a no?
Yeah, I wouldn't attempt to build stockpiles of cheese and things like this, and butter and stuff.
Yeah. What about chocolate?
Chocolate's all right, because there's enough sugar in it so that it won't perish. The sugar content keeps it from perishing over a long period. It'll go white. Chocolate will go white, but it's still edible.
Also, honey lasts for a heck of a long time.
Lasts for 100,000 years.
Yeah. So
honey, found honey 1,000 years old, perfectly fine.
And it's good for healing. If you've actually cut your finger, it's an antiseptic.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, and also apple cider vinegar. I store a lot of that as well, because that lasts.
Brilliant. Yeah, you definitely know your stuff on prepping and storage. Impressive. Good knowledge.
I've spent a long time on it. And now we go back here. Let's have a look here. Now, by the way, cooking. Now, all right, let's say everything's okay for cooking. I've gone down the rocket stove route, and you can look on YouTube. There's plenty of sites that show you how to make a rocket stove. And but you can't get perlite so easily now. I got it from Jewson's. Bought a big sack of it. But you can't get it from. I don't think you can get it from Wicks and places like that. I'm talking about UK now. I'm not sure about in America and places like that.
Well, if you're building a rocket stove, the idea of the perlite is to act as an insulator between the inner and outer wall. And you can use any insulative material. You can use clay pellets that hydroponic farms use for growing, like ceramic pellets. They're just as good. Or you can just use sand. Sand off the beach works as good as anything for an insulator if you are going to build a rocket stove. My only beef with rocket stoves is if you're using them inside, you fill your full house up with carbon monoxide and things. This is why I like the idea of having a wood-burning stove in your house with a proper chimney, because then all the fumes get out. And I mean, a rocket stove, if you was out in the wilderness, you can dig what's called a Dakota fire hole. And that's a rocket stove made out of the ground. You just dig a hole, and then you dig a tunnel from the bottom of that hole to another hole, which is half the size. And the half-size hole is the vent for the rocket stove. And you stick the fuel down, and it's a rocket stove, but it's in the earth. And then you can just cover it up, and nobody ever knows you've had a fire. And obviously, as you're fully aware, a rocket stove does virtually 100% combustion, which means there's no smoke.
That's right.
Like more of an escape and evasion survival fire, really.
But really, though, I think that it's got to be dry weather, and unfortunately in Great Britain it's wet most of the time. So the only time you could use the Dakota fire hole would be in sort of July, August.
Under a shelter, under a tarp shelter.
But this is why I'm going to build a chimney to one of my sort of sheds, so I could push move into the shed, because that's insulated. So that's what I'm doing. You know, that's what I'm looking at the moment. Now the other thing with food storage, what I've actually found is there's something strange about tinned potatoes. They seem to explode. I had an exploding tin. I've had 2 tins of potatoes, and with tin food, I don't worry about the expiry date. I've actually had food that's been in a tin for 20 years. Would you realise that? And it's
interesting about the potatoes, because I've got tinned potatoes that have been there for 8 years and nothing's happened to them yet.
I don't know what it's about my ones. You know, it's exploded.
I'll watch out for the exploding potatoes. It's a good tip. I'll check them more frequently.
Yeah, I don't know quite. I might have been because we had a hot spell, and it's only during that hot spell. I think was it in May, June when we had this very hot spell. It happened, but you know, I have had
more than likely got some kind of bacterial contamination inside it that caused the rotting process to generate gas, which has made it explode rather than the heat.
Is it right? You can actually eat. I mean, I've actually eaten the contents of a tin can that's 20 years old. Is that right? It lasts literally forever.
Well, corned beef's been unearthed from the war and eaten. People have done it live on YouTube and things, and it's perfectly fine after 50 years.
But what about other foods? Is that all right in a tin can?
Well, I go with what I know. What I do is I try and get something which I'm absolutely certain about. I was wondering if we was going to get into any kind of wild edible foraging and things. And what I do is I go with what I'm absolutely sure about, and I tend to stick with that. In a similar way, as I mean, there are experts. There's probably some viewers that's better experts at wild foraging foods than I have. I have a handbook for it because mushrooms are highly dangerous, and there's lots of plants that look like the ones that are good for you, but you're dead after an hour if you eat them. So, yeah, I mean,
I think that's too much. I mean, I actually I eat wild blackberries because they're easy to pick.
If you know exactly what it is, then it's brilliant.
I don't touch mushrooms at all. I won't touch them.
No,
it's too dangerous. You can't be an expert at it.
Yeah.
The other one that you can eat, but again, you've got to be very careful, is with chestnuts, because you know the shells are very similar, and if you eat the wrong one, you can poison yourself. So I keep closer. But a few of my friends eat chestnuts, but they know exactly the right one. But I'm iffy. If in doubt, don't. And now
this is why I tend to rely on storing corned beef, because I know it'll last forever, and I'm not going to get any nasty surprises.
Right, and it says here now. Please excuse me if I'm missing a few, because there's so many people in the chat room. So please don't take it personal. I'm terribly sorry if I missed some. There's a very interesting. Now we got here. Where we got here? US John Basinglow. Now I think you're in. Actually, John, I think you're in America. So welcome. I was in United States Air Force Survival School and SERE training. You will eat your own dog or cat when without food for a week. Well, I know that's true because...
That's correct. Or your colleagues and neighbours.
Yes. Well, my dad was in the siege of Malta and there was no animals there, because no pets, because the people have eaten them all. And actually you had to survive on, I think it was 5 biscuits, dog biscuits a day. That's all they had. And they had to do a full army routine on 5 dog biscuits a day. They were absolutely starving. So you will eat anything. Now it says here, what about camping type stoves for emergency? What's the smallest suitable or recommended? This is from Edge Crusher. So what's your advice on stoves?
one of my favourite subjects is stoves,
Ah, righto.
and I like the Firebox stove and the Bushcraft Essentials Bushbox XL folding stove. It's just collapsible stove that builds itself. You don't have to build it like a 3D jigsaw, but it burns anything that's on the ground, dead wood, leaves. You can burn anything in it, and it's a fantastic way of containing a small fire and creating a massive amount of heat for a very small amount of fuel. And it's a flat pack, so it's kind of this thick when it's flattened, and it will go in a trouser pocket. And they're the best thing I've ever seen as far as stoves go, because you don't have to carry fuel. They can't run out of fuel, and they'll always work. They're the best stove as far as I'm concerned. But if you're going to talk about a fueled stove, I'd always go with the Trangia alcohol burning stove, because you get a lot of bang for your buck regarding thermal efficiency with that. And the Bushbox type folding stoves have also got a variable trivet height where you can accommodate a Trangia alcohol stove, so you can use it as an alcohol stove holder, as well as use natural fuel if you haven't got any fuel for the Trangia stove. And it's by far and away the best stove method I've ever found, and I swear by him.
I've actually made a alcohol stove out of 2 Coke cans.
Yes, that's
on the internet,
yeah,
and it works well.
Oh, they do, yeah. A penny stove, so that you stick
That's
a small coin over the central vent hole to cause the alcohol flame to bloom correctly. After it's originally, you prime it first by having a little pool of fuel at the top to heat the mess up enough so that it will evaporate out the hose. Great system, and you've correctly pointed out that you can make one for 10p.
Well, less than that. Just find a couple of old two Coke cans.
Yeah.
The thing I must point out to viewers is that I can only speak for Great Britain. I'm sorry, I don't know about America, but Toolstation I found sells methylated spirits. They're about the cheapest. And alcohol. Now I know you can get rubbing alcohol in America over the counter, but in this country I believe it's called surgical spirit, and you can actually buy it in boots. But if you ask for alcohol, they won't sell it to you. But it is the same surgical spirit.
There's a top tip here for everybody. If they've got an alcohol stove, hand sanitizer has become massively widely available everywhere. And if you mix it with salt, even if it's a low ethanol percentage, the salt will soak everything up apart from the alcohol, and you can purify it and use it for fuel. The hand sanitizer works perfect in Trangia stoves if it's tripped with salt first, as it draws all the impurities out of it and just leaves the ethanol.
That's interesting. So it just sort of floats on the top, and you can use.
Yeah, that's more of an urban survival kind of improvisation tip.
But the meth stove,
widely available.
You can boil a small cup of water for a cup of tea or something like that, which I've done, and it lasts for about 5 minutes, something like that. But it boils it. So
a viewer was asking about books on wild edibles and things. I've actually got one to show the camera, if that's okay.
Certainly, far away.
It's definitely the best one that anybody's ever come out with, and I'll just go and retrieve that if it's okay.
Okay, well, I'll be reading what's in comments whilst you're retrieving it. Okay. Now, we got Aunt Sally, Edge Crusher. I have a BioLite stove. It cooks and charges your device whilst on. It burns twigs. It is expensive, though. A BioLite. I think we need to pool all our knowledge on this. This is very interesting. Now, we've got Edge Crusher. All this talk of the apocalypse is making me hungry. Can't wait to get started. Right.
This is for the viewer who was talking about which books to.
Food for free. Oh, yes, food for free.
This is the best publication in a handbook size that's available anywhere.
And it's about, hang on, and fantastic. I can just about read that. Sorry, and that's it. A fantastic feast of plants and folklore. Do you know, it's Colin's Gem. That's interesting. So it should be easily available.
It's very easily available, but again, get them while you can. Get all
Right.
these resources and equipment while you can. That's the message I'm trying to get across. You
So,
don't have to be an all singing, all dancing bushcraft expert. All the items are here at the moment, and now's the time to get these things.
right, that's fascinating. Thanks for that, Dave. That's a brilliant one. I think that's been out since the 70s, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's tried and tested. Fantastic.
Right. Now, Sean Hamer's, I won't do any of this. They will nick. Now, as someone's put a good point here. Most people won't do any of this. They will nick what their neighbours have. I'm not sure whether I should mention this or not. How can I put this politely? Todd's Workshop. Look that up on YouTube, and the Singshot channel. Now we got here Sean Hamer. This is an interesting one for Dave. Tins are toxic. That's why they use them. Now that's interesting. I know that they used to have tin in them. The tin, my grandparents were very suspicious of tin food. They were very about it. That's interesting. I'll bring that up to Dave when he comes back. Now it says here, Outside says, damn, I bought quite a few tin spuds. Well, your spuds might be all right. I bought Tesco's, they were, yeah. Bleeding Tesco spuds. Perhaps they're exploding spuds just for Tesco's. But no, I think personally, I think what it was, the tin got a bit rusty and it just blew, Now tins, that's quite right. They're lined with plastic. Yes, they are. Another one here. Beech nuts are plentiful and edible. Yes. I don't know how to recognise beech nuts. Food for free. That would be what would be necessary. I wouldn't know about that. Now it says here, who cares about a little tin or plastic when you are hungry? Well, you're quite right. You eat any bleeding thing when you're hungry. Yeah. There was an interesting question here, Dave, whilst you was away, which I think could be said for going back to the Edwardian times, but he's got a point. Good point. He says tins are toxic. That's why they use them. Well, they used to have actual tin in them. That's why people killed over years ago. And I'm talking about Victorian times. But this is Sean Hamer. He says, and lined with plastic. Yeah, I know they're lined with plastic. Yes. So I'm sort of going against myself when I'm talking about tin tomatoes, I suppose. And we got here, who cares about a little tin or plastic when you're hungry? This is, are there any foraging books that Dave recommend? Well, he's just said that book, it's food for free. And I know that a lot of people, I haven't read the book, but I'm going to get it, who've read the book said
it's more of a reference book, so you don't like read it from cover to cover. You can do, but it's good to refer to if you're in the environment where the plants are. You're outside, you're in the woods. You can refer to this, and it'll help you avoid some very, very costly errors.
Well, you can kill yourself. I know.
Yes.
That, there's a lot of these things. It's like rose hips. Now, you can eat rose hips. They're absolutely packed with vitamin C, but there's certain plants that look like rose hips and they're poisonous. So you've got to be quite careful. And you don't eat rose hips that are from cultivated roses. They're from wild roses, which is a little bit different, Now it says here, foraging tips would be interesting. Yeah, it's a very deep subject. I don't know about you, Dave, but I think it's a bit too deep.
For anybody who's not brilliant on the wild edibles and the identification, like me, because I'm not, I'd stick to things that you absolutely know what they are. I'll stick to dandelions, nettles, thistles, wild garlic, the obvious blackberries and bilberries and things like that you can recognise. I wouldn't go with saying, oh, this looks tasty, I'll give that a go. There are tests that you can do if you are in a pinch you will break a small amount of a given plant off, and you'll rub it on your forearm or any other area that's not exposed to the sun, your inner wrist, and you wait a couple of hours, and if there's no reaction, then you can pull your bottom lip down, rub the leaf on your bottom lip, and then wait 8 hours. And if there's no tingling, numbness or symptoms, you can then eat a small amount of that, and then you wait 12 hours and then eat the same amount again, wait 24 hours, and if you're still okay, you can chow down on it. But it's a very long, drawn-out desperation method, which is really only for if you're just absolutely desperate and you're just stuck.
Well, dandelions are safe because you can eat the whole
Yeah, but the whole plant's safe. The thistles are safe. Nettles are safe.
thistles.
Well, nettles are safe until they've gone to seed, obviously.
Yes.
You can't eat them after they've gone to seed, but yeah, young nettles are perfect. Dandelions are fantastic. Dandelion, you can grind. I don't know if the viewers are aware, but if you like coffee and things have gone wrong and there's no more coffee available, you can roast dandelion roots, and they grind up to make something very similar to the chicory they put in coffee.
That's right.
And it makes an excellent drink.
They did that during the American Civil War. The Southern Armies used that. It's called Southern Army coffee, and I believe that Germany did it during the war when they were short of coffee, and I think they did it in this country as well, because you used to be able to buy, was it camp coffee? Still can, I think, with chicory in it.
Yeah, well, dandelion root is an excellent chicory substitute.
Yeah, and I think that you got to pick the seasons, but early spring, I think, with dandelion. I mean, I eat dandelions, and they're gorgeous. And somebody told me they grow where there's iron, but they grow everywhere. Common as anything, really, and they're easy to notice. But I didn't know that about thistles. I didn't know you can grow.
You can eat thistles. Obviously, you'll clip all the prickles off them. You know, you've got to use common sense here.
Yeah.
But the whole thing's edible. The leaves, the stem, the flowers, the root, everything.
Also, stinging nettles, because once
as long as they haven't gone to seed, you can't eat them when they've gone to seed. But they're excellent for making tri-braid primitive cordage. If you haven't got any paracord or bank line, I carry paracord or number 36 bank line because cordage is one of the most difficult things to recreate out of nature. You can use braided and spliced nettle stalks stripped into thin slivers to weave and triple plait into cordage, which will create cordage strong enough to operate a bow drill, but it's not very good for high tension applications.
Well, good point, because somebody mentioned about your neighbours will be after what you've got, and I had to be very
measures are in place to safeguard my supplies. And they're at multiple locations.
And also, I advise them to look at Todd's workshop and the Slingshot channel.
Anybody who's prepping, I advise them not to tell people, or if they do tell people, if you're on the internet, don't really identify where you're from or anything. And if you have any friends, if you let them know that you have got supplies and things like that, make sure that you've got at least triple the amount at other locations in case you do get robbed. Otherwise, you could end up in a conflict situation, and you wouldn't really be wanting to show your hand.
Another one is buy yourself a plastic drain pipe with the two ends.
Yeah, survival cache, burying caches.
And then dig a hole and bury it with tint in it. So you've got so that if anybody robs you, you've still got a store of food.
Yeah, that's correct. But obviously, I'll come on here and say that I'm a prepper and things like this, but I can absolutely assure you that extensive measures are in place to protect my belongings.
Well, Sean Hamer said, anyone who can't tell the difference between sweet chestnuts and horse chestnuts is just not a goner. It's just not a goner make it. Well, that's right, but you got to be very careful with those type of things. And then we got here Sean Hamer again. Eat more nettles, rose hips, dry and store comfrey leaves. Yes, nature is abundant. That's right. Yes, it's surprising what you can eat, but again, you got to know what you're doing, and it's so easy to make mistakes. And you hear I've heard a lot of cases where people have mistaken what they're looking at, and they've eaten stuff that's poisonous and deadly.
I prefer to harvest fish and animals as opposed to plants and things, because I was a butcher for 10 years, so I know what I'm doing with harvesting game and things like that. So.
Well, roadkill. I mean, let's put it this way: most of us are in an urban environment, and we know the urban environment. We don't know. I wasn't born in a wood. I wasn't born in Mother Nature. So unless you're sort of born in a woodland and your father and mother were woodcutters or something, I don't know, but wood choppers, then you're in the environment that you know. So roadkill, things like that. You know, that's it. That's it. It sounds a bit yucky, but now we've got here a good point here by Sean Hamer. Stoves will be banned by COP21 in November.
Yeah, this is correct. Sean's correctly pointing this out. And what I recommend is a catalytic converter and carbon air filter on top of your chimney, a heat-proof one, so that you can run a wood-burning stove covertly in your house without any smoke coming out or odour if the authorities do ban them, and you can still operate it covertly.
Right, now there's some very interesting things here that people are putting. Yeah, clothing, that's something we haven't covered. Woolly jumpers, yes, wool, very important. Ski socks, yes. Now we got one here from Sean. Sound footwear essential at all times. Mobility is vital in a crisis. Now Colin is the footwear man. Ask him about boots. He pays hundreds for his boots. Oh, have you any? I mean, I've just paid out quite a bit of money for a pair of good boots. What kind of footwear? Because I suffer from very cold feet, and I've found these thermal socks that you buy off the stalls and Uncle Tom Gobley and all, in a word, are crap. And really, you've got to have wool in your socks, and also keep your feet dry. That's the most important.
Yeah,
thing.
I recommend Gore-Tex lined military issue boots. Lower is a fantastic make, massively expensive, but
lower, yeah.
You can't afford to compromise on boots. It's as simple as that. The guy's right to the viewer is right to point out the importance of good footwear. The Gore-Tex, comfortable out the box, and that they don't require wearing in, is what you want. And as far as socks goes, a viewer was mentioning socks. The 1,000-mile military issue socks, which have a cotton inner and a merino wool outer to prevent any possibility of blisters with a double skinned sock, and that's an excellent way to go for footwear. What do you
think of Altbergs? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in.
Altberg, brilliant. Lower, fantastic. Hikes, another one. You know, they're all good brands, but Lower, as far as I'm concerned, you can't beat them. You know, it might be a couple of £100 and things, or 300 quid they are now, but
yeah,
they're fantastic.
Well, Lower, there is a place on eBay I've noticed you can get them the walking shoe sort of boots for £75, but I don't know whether
it's whatever your budget can go to. Man, my whole life is prepping and survival tactics and equipment, so I don't mind spending extra money on it.
Well, I've just recently paid out to get some Altbergs, and Altbergs are very good. I'm not sure they're Gore-Tex; they're a different type of, but they keep your feet dry.
Yeah, it's either Gore-Tex or Pertex lining.
That's it, Pertex.
Yeah, they're all the same. Very good performance.
But the army use them, and they look like ordinary. They don't look like army boots; they look like ordinary walking boots.
Yeah, they do. They're good. I like them.
And,
good choice.
You can get them a second user, but grade 1 are quite much cheaper off of eBay, off these military surplus places.
I'm a very, very keen advocate for military surplus items because you cannot beat the build quality.
Yeah, a German as well. I've actually got a pair of German paratrooper boots, which are very good.
Legendary, aren't they? But as long as you've worn them in.
Oh, blimey!
They're a problem out the box. Whereas your lower and Berghaus, some Berghaus boots, obviously not the budget end, they're comfortable out the box without requiring to be broken in, which is a massive bonus.
Oh, it is. But These German paratrooper boots, well, that's dead anything. What do you think about second hand though? I mean, grade one.
Excellent idea. Great idea. I'm all for economising if that's what you have to do. But boots should be a priority. That the viewer correctly pointed that out, and it's good to know that a lot of your viewers are very very good at all this stuff, and I'm quite happy about it.
Oh yeah. The only trouble I've actually found, I buy these because I suffer from cold feet, and I actually bought these heat pad things that you peel the back off and they last about 8 hours or something like that. They're very, very good, but I found they make your feet perspire, and you've got to keep washing your feet, because if your feet perspire and that perspiration, that is moisture and that lets the cold in. That's what I've actually found.
If your feet are constantly wet, you'll get terrible things, trench foot and horrible stuff.
That's right.
Immersion foot and stuff like that. So it's got to be avoided.
Now, we've got Louise here. Louise, our landlord has already sent letters saying they will no longer allow fuel burning stoves. Why do they think I need permission? Survival is a necessity.
Well, that's a very good point from Louise.
Yeah.
Now, I have actually got an Anave collapsible breakdown wood burning stove, and if you've got like a picture on your chimney breast, like a big mirror or something like that, you can actually drill a big hole about kind of that. And I've had the chimney for the Anave collapsible tripod stove modified by an engineer with a 45-degree bend in it, so I can insert it in the chimney breast and run the wood burning stove up the original chimney above the gas fire. And I can run that wood burning stove, and if the landlord has actually banned the use of stoves in Louisa's house, then whenever he makes an appointment to come down, it's a very simple matter to remove the stove, collapse it all back into its bag, and put the picture back up, and then he'll never know.
Brilliant. Now, Louise has come in with a good one about the book that you showed. Was it Food for Free? The book is less than a £5. Is it? Blimey, that's good. On World Book, Amazon is dearer. So it's less than a £5. Well, that's about the best money I've ever spent. I'll tell you something. I haven't got that book, but guess who's going to buy one tomorrow?
Good move.
Right. Now, we got here Kevin Keener. This is nothing to do with survival. Found a channel that might interest you. These people are running everywhere. It's calling the shills have lies. I couldn't believe it, what I was seeing. We'll put a link, mate, and we'll have a look at it. So, what's that? So this is nothing to do. Found a channel. These people are running everything. It's calling the shills have lies. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we're actually lucky enough to be sat with the great John Hamer, who's one of the world's leading authorities on them running everything. And I listen to them that know, and he knows.
Now we got here, you don't understand global governance. Well, we do. We're just trying to survive. What we're going to do then? Stick our finger up our bum or something? Sorry.
John, who's sat here, is one of the world's leading authorities on global governance and the corruption therein. As you're well aware, Chris, and I think the viewers would do well to remember that and read some of his excellent books, particularly The Falsification of History.
That's right. Didn't mean to be rude there, Sean. Terribly sorry. Hope you don't take it personal. I didn't have no joke, so sorry. Now, to Aunt Sally, tins of fish in oil are good. I hate fish though. I've always been a bit iffy about tinned fish because I'm wondering whether that would last. And fish, you've got to be bloody careful with if it goes a bit off, because you can get pretty nasty stuff from fish. So I'm always iffy about fish. How do you feel about that, Dave?
I go with catching it as opposed to storing it in tins. I mean, I have got tins of tuna and things, and people say, "Oh, it's full of mercury and things." But again, going back to what another one of your very switched-on viewers has pointed out, what's the problem with a little bit of tin or plastic if you're going to starve to death if you don't eat it? So this is, I mean, we're dealing with emergency measures here, and I don't think you can be too picky. But personally, I think the way to go with fish is to catch them rather than store them. And you can put static lines out on any beach or riverbank, or there's automatic fishing rods which you can set up with a number 7 trigger. And obviously, this is a bushcraft related item for wilderness survival skills. But once you've learned how to do these things, it's very easy to harvest large amounts of freshwater fish. And if you harvest, say, a squirrel or a rat, or you find some roadkill, a really good fishing tactic for a survival situation is to actually open the animal up, eat what you can use, and then hang the leftovers on a branch above the water where there's a pond. And then this naturally decays, and flies do their job on the meat that's hung up, and the maggots fall into the water, and the local fish get used to this as a safe, free food source. And then you can fish to your heart's content in that vicinity, and you will catch bucket loads of fish, because it's an automatic fish feeder that works by nature.
That's interesting. These are skills that, you see, when you think I was born sort of, we're all, I don't know, I can't speak for you, Dave, but I was born in an urban environment, and these are things that we've lost. Our ancestors knew this off by heart.
I was a keen fisherman for a lot of years, and my dad taught me about ground bait in an area. I mean, we did it with commercial ground bait, just throwing handfuls of maggots in and things like that. But the way to do it, because the thing that we have to focus on, if we are in a survival situation and we're a bit unfortunate enough to have had to leave our home, and what you go with is the golden rule: is you burn the least number of calories to harvest the most number of calories. Now, anything where you'd have to stand and fish with your fishing rod, that's a complete waste of calories, because you are there devoting your time to catching a fish. Whereas if you set up an automated feeding system as the one I've just described, and then have spring pole automatic snare fishing rods which set the hook when the fish pulls the hook, you can just walk up and down every 2 hours and check 15 fishing rods in your area that you've baited with a naturally rotting item of animal matter hung on a tree above the water. It's absolutely perfect, and one of the most fruitful fishing methods I've ever seen.
Because I don't think there's any poisonous fish in this country. I mean, the pike.
You can eat any freshwater fish in Britain. You can eat, and any that are smaller than 3 inches, you can eat straight out the water.
Really, that's
no problem.
Because I know pike is actually full of bones.
Pike's a fantastic resource, very, very easy to catch.
Really. Now, short hamer. Stand under a beech tree late September. They are everywhere. Follow the squirrels. They know. Now, that's an interesting one. Do squirrels know the difference between chestnuts that you can eat and chestnuts you can't eat?
Well, that's a good question. But
I don't know if acorns do. No, I don't know.
I'll tell you now. Here's another top tip. Squirrels don't know the difference between a real squirrel eating a nut or a guy with 2 coins with a castellated edge on, flicking them against each other in his hand as an echo chamber. And if you're armed with a slingshot, you can just go like that, and it makes an identical noise that a squirrel thinks is another squirrel digging into a nut. And they all come, and all their heads pop up to see what's going on. And obviously, you then remove them heads.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a good squirrel attraction game. 2 coins in your hand. Very easy to do. Anybody can do it.
Thing is, I think that something like that. So I was a vegetarian at one time, and that we all go through different stages in life. I'm a meat eater now. For killing an animal, that'll take quite a bit. But I think if you're hungry enough, you will.
It does. I've worked in a commercial abattoir for 10 years, and it's no joke. It's a very, very serious matter.
Yeah.
And I won't ever forget the feeling when I first did that.
It's like anything like that. But once you get used to it, I mean, unfortunately, I think we do need meat. You know that.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the sun can't create vitamin D3, right? if there's no cholesterol present in the body, and cholesterol is only in animal fat. It's not in anything else.
This is what I found out the hard way.
No-brainer.
And that's what I found out the hard way. But
yeah,
but because I've noticed in the supermarkets now they're saying loads and loads and loads of vegetable this, vegetable that, and it's mainly soya, and soya is terrible. It works. It's bad for your thyroid. So it's not
very
good.
bad for male hormones as well. It's it creates it makes men grow breasts and gynecomastia, I think they call it.
Blimey.
Terrible soya.
Well, the McCartney.
I'd rather not, thanks.
No, but she promoted all this vegetarian soya stuff, and she, now what's the name of the book again? Anyway, yes, it's Plants Food for Free.
There it is again for any viewers that haven't seen it. Absolutely excellent book.
Right, I'm definitely going to get that. Right.
The great John Lofty Wiseman swears by this book, and he wrote the SAS Survival Guide with a whole 30-page chapter on wild foraging, and he's the godfather of survival instructors, obviously.
Now, Sean Hamer says, ash tree sprigs in spring are highly nutritious. I didn't know. Hawthorn berries too. The rowan. Study how to keep and cook, etc. Easy peasy. Nature is bountiful.
Yeah, yes. Hawthorn leaves are okay. They're all right.
Grow herbs in your garden as well. I grow mint, lemon balm, rosemary. I have all those sort of herbs. They're good for your memory, rosemary. Have your rosemary tea, that type of thing. It's just, I was told, this is Sean Hamer again, that all those were inedible, poisonous. Guess why? Creating corporate dependency. Yes.
Excellent point.
Kevin Keener, old socks tea for the odor eaters, I think you're talking. Sorry, it's good for a laugh. Under eaters. But tell you what I put to stop a pong in my trainers, bicarbonate of soda. That takes the smell out easily.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
And also, if you're into spirits and that, if you put salt in shoes, it takes any nasty spirits out. If you bought second-hand shoes, I'm a bit iffy about that. If you put salt in, leave it overnight, it takes anything nasty out.
I know somebody who has salt glued on his windowsill to keep demons out the bedroom.
Really? Yeah, I've got salt. I actually bought a pair of these boots, and they were grade 1, and they're very, very good. And one of them were I bought 2 pairs, and the other pair needs to be repaired, being damaged somehow. But I put salt in them to keep, so if there's anything in there, it'll get rid of it, Right, it says here, Sean Hamer, plant identifier apps are useful, but are spyware. Use cautiously. I had one for a bit, then ditched, having gathered an amount of identifying tips and such. That's interesting. I didn't know those plant identifier apps. That's an interesting one. Now,
I definitely wouldn't recommend them.
I'd
go with an actual book.
Yeah.
Because they can't be corrupted. Once they've been wrote, nobody can change anything to put malware in it or anything. It's there.
Good point. Good point. Prepper is a label, Sean Hamer, that will be included in the legalized insurgent threat to national security risk list, like conspiracies. Yes, you got a point. Very good.
Correct. Hence the ridiculous disguise.
Well, do you know something? Do you know we're up to almost 2 hours now? This is an incredible show. How do you feel, Dave? John? I think we got to sort of, hang on, we got even more here. We got here Ralph Winter. Okay, sorry I can't read everybody's out. Stinging nettles contain many nutrients. That's right. Vitamins, vitamin A, C, and K, as well as several B vitamins, minerals, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus. I know that's
correct, Ralph. has correctly pointed that out, but he's missed protein out. There's actually quite a bit of protein in nettles, and that's not usually publicised. I don't know why.
And we got here, what is the best way to pickle? What type of vinegar do I need? Well, actually, not necessarily pickle. This is Kevin Keener. And what is the best foods to pickle? Well, you don't need vinegar. You can do it with water and salt, as they do with sauerkraut. But over to you, John. Have you anything to add on that one?
Me?
No, not you, John. Sorry, Dave.
Well, that was useful. Yeah, no, I'll go back to that.
I'm not much of a pickler. I haven't got a vacuum pickling machine or anything like that. And a lot of the people that I converse with on the internet are expert picklers from America and things, and they've got a lot of money worth of pickling equipment. I just I stick to the basics, and I collect tinned meat and tinned vegetables, and I like to keep it simple because I just think they're easier to pickles are in glass jars and things, and they can be broken, and they're not good for hiding in various locations like tins are. I think I'm more of a survivalist than a prepper, but I do prepping as well. And I think, to be fair, going by what you've said, you're a more knowledgeable prepper on particular prepping than I am. But my main area of expertise is creating food and water with nothing in the woods and environments like that.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I actually had some pickled onions, and they were a well-known name, you know, they're quite common, that had expired in 2018, which is not that long ago. And I opened the jar. That one almost threw up. It tasted foul.
Wow.
So I don't know what, you know, and I mean, there's no chemicals in there. It's just sort of vinegar and sugar and whatever. But, you know, now this is a $64,000 question. David Robinson, how long do we have before the hammer falls? $64,000 question, that one, isn't it?
I'll put my opinion forward, and then I'll pass it to John Hamer, who's obviously
okay. Well, that's a good idea.
Like this. I believe the hammer has fallen, and it's falling slowly enough that people aren't noticing it, and it's currently falling right now. I don't think it's when's the hammer going to fall. It is falling now, but it's just doing it in slow motion. And what it is they're doing it in small steps and slowly, so that the prey, us, doesn't notice. So I think it's a mistake to say when's the hammer going to fall, because it's falling in my view. But I'll pass this one over to the real expert, which is John.
Okay, Dave.
Well, thanks, Dave. But I mean, he calls me the real expert, but he's been very modest. He knows exactly as much as I do about this stuff. But he's right. It's the totalitarian tiptoe, as some people call it. It's the boiling frog syndrome. We are absolutely being snared. There isn't going to be a point where it suddenly happens and, oh shit, where do we go from here? We are being slowly dragged into the net. And, you know, they are hoping that we don't notice, and we will, you know, they're hoping that we'll reach a point where they can just close the net, and that's it. We're sunk forever. So, you know, my advice would be, I'm not a prepper, I'm not a survivalist. I depend on my mate Dave here, and but I would recommend everybody to follow some of this advice, because, you know, things are not going to get any better unless there's a drastic upturn in our fortunes in some way. And at this point in time, I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but at this moment in time, I cannot see exactly where that is going to come from. That's not to say it won't, but I remain optimistic that at some point in time, and it may not even be in our lifetimes, Chris, but, you know,
I don't know.
Optimistic that it will happen at some point. Yeah.
My only optimism is coming from what I'm seeing in France, not on the mainstream, obviously, but you know, with the yellow vests. They say they've been infiltrated, but the trouble is, in this country, you know, it'll rain and everybody go home because the front are getting wet. That's a problem. You know, or the police will say, you've been very naughty, we might lock you up. Oh, we might go, oh, don't want that. No, I don't think. I think we've got some. I think
we're okay for now. Okay-ish for now, but the things can turn very quickly if they need it to, and
That's right. Well, actually, what somebody's put here is Edge Crusher. Watch rickets return after people stop eating meat.
Good point.
That is quite an interesting one. That is, and it says that bowed legs will become a symptom of you know what. That's right. That's right. And but actually, I would like this program to go on longer. But we're almost up to 2 hours now, and how do you?
Survivalism is such an enormous subject. Just water acquisition and purification alone is a book-worthy subject just on its own. It's a phenomenally complex and many-faceted subject.
But the core of what you said, I think, is 100%, and that is stick in the environment that you know.
That's correct.
I don't know. I couldn't survive 5 minutes in the woods, and I don't think many people could because I have not been brought up in that area.
This guy could.
You could, yeah. You could, Dave, but I couldn't. I like what Aunt Sally said. Another good thing to research is medicinal remedies from your kitchen cupboard and those found in nature. Yes, you're quite right, Aunt Sally. You were really right there. And it's like I was saying, grow herbs that are easy to grow, like rosemary. That's easy to grow. It's very good. And mint, lemon balm, and in your home you can grow aloe vera. So if you cut yourself, you've got an antiseptic, which is like a plaster aloe vera. It's marvelous stuff. So some other things, and also it's an air freshener as well. It cleanses the air. That and also spider plants, they cleanse the air very well. So that's what I haven't got aloe vera, but I've got spider plants. Dave, we're almost up to 2 hours now. That shows how interesting the subject is, and we're having loads and loads and loads of people joining us. We've got a lot in chat.
I did bring an emergency bug out bag full of items of equipment, and if you was going to do another show at some point, I'd be happy if your viewers were satisfied with what they've seen so far to expand upon it with a show of a load of specialized equipment which I carry on a regular basis.
Why not? Because tonight
I'd explain how it's all used and things if the viewers was interested.
Well, this is the longest show we've done. Normally it's about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and a half. This is almost 2 hours. And I always say, leave the show with the audience wanting more. That's always been the advice to me. So how do you feel? Or please come back, Dave, on another show.
We're very happy to. I'd like to say thanks for the kind words to Ralph. Ralph Winter's words are very kind, and I'm very grateful for that appreciation.
Yes, likewise. And hang on, Town Cryers mentioned something here. When the financial system collapses, it will be fast. Good point, Town Crier. Very good point. Yes. And hello, we just got Jobby Dodger, always called Jammy Dodger, coming in. Well, actually, I think we need another couple of programs, because it's so interesting. It's absolutely fascinating. And funny enough, I was staying in the park yesterday, and I mentioned about tonight's program, and people went, "Really? Oh!" And it's the week before. That's it. Sorry, not yesterday. It's the Sunday before. I mentioned that I was planning doing a program on this subject, and it was eyes lit up. So it's obviously a very popular subject. So what would you? So if we sort of could wind this up now, so please come back, Dave, for another couple of programs.
I'd be very grateful for the opportunity to come back. I feel like I'm trying to help people, because I believe at the point in time we're at now, I believe that it's time to try and help people, because it's going to get naughty soon.
Well, we all have to help each other, I feel.
Well, anything else to add, Dave? John? Sorry, I'm getting muddled up with names now.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think Dave's done a fantastic job tonight, and I'd like to thank him.
Incredible.
But apart from that, I don't really have anything to add. No.
Well, one of the survival tips is in the mind, and the most important thing is positiveness. Hang on, what's happened to me? I've disappeared.
You're in the mind, Chris, don't worry.
It's in the mind, and I've disappeared. Woo. And also, Ray Mears pointed that out. There was a ship that sunk, and there's two lifeboats, and there's one lifeboat where people were pessimistic, and the other one where they're optimistic. And they showed you film of these lifeboats being rescued. And the one where they're pessimistic, that'll be taken off in stretchers, and the one where there was optimistic, the people just walking up and down the deck going, oh, because of state of mind. And always remember, whatever happens, always have a laugh. Keep smiling. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for up to all the viewers and for your kind comments.
Well, we got great. I'm very proud of everyone in chat and the comments that are coming through. So same place, same time next week. And it's good night from me, and it's good night from thee, I guess. And good night. Thank you very much.